master plan. You're working on your master plan.
Well, I guess the first thing I have to say is, how cool is this? How cool is this?
This is cool for me.
You know, if you want to know how this whole thing came together, I mean, first of all, we should give a nice round of applause to Brian for bringing Eliot here. I can tell you the story about how the show happened at another time, but we've got a special guest here, so, you know, first question, we'll just kind of throw it out there. One of the sort of stories from your past and the folklore is when you were a young man, you had a friend who was in the music
Like 10 years ago, right?
11, 12. And you got to jam in your basement when you were like 11, 12 years old with a famous musician? What was his name?
Well, it actually wasn't my basement. It was my friend's basement, you could say. So, okay, so what happened for me growing up, when I was 10 years old, I started as a drummer and met my pretty much lifetime friend who was just starting the bass. I was 10, he was 11. And I would see him get on the bus with this big acoustic bass, and he would always be singing Hey Jude. So we called him the Hey Jude Kid. Lo and behold, we befriended, and we became lifetime friends, and quickly discovered that his father was well deep into the music business. So here I am just starting life as a musician, and it was like, you know, a kid in a candy store, literally. So his dad had thousands of records in his home. So we were like, oh my God, this is all the music I ever wanted. But one of the people he was working with right around this time was Peter Frampton. So now this is before Peter Frampton kind of really shut off with his live record, and that was around 76 or 7 when Frampton Comes Alive. So just before that, I think he had Frampton's Camel, but he had come out of a group called Humble Pie. Do you remember them? Way back with Steve Marriott. So I knew what he was doing. So you know, back then, and so so what happened for me is that because my friend Kevin's dad was, you know, working with Mountain and Jack Bruce and West Bruce and Lang, tons of people, but he was the promotion man for Peter Frampton. So Peter Frampton would come over his house. We would hang out, and one day we ended up in our jam room. And I was playing drums, Kevin was playing bass, and Peter Frampton got on the piano. And there was a guitar, but he played piano with it. He was a great piano player. So we just had this, you know, this casual jam lasted for about an hour. And then, you know, we would go back and see him at Madison Square Garden and have some good times when I was 14. But that goes along with all the people that I met when I was a little kid. I would meet The Who one week, and Alice Cooper, and go see Elton John. So, you know, growing up wanting to be a musician for the rest of my life, all of a sudden I was put in front of these people and sort of got to know them and see how they were conducting themselves in their business and their career from a really early age. So it definitely helped shape and groom me for what was to come.
Excellent. Well, speaking of shaping and grooming, I mean, you're an excellent songwriter, and you've collaborated with some people. People may not be real familiar with Dan Hartman, or a song called I Can Dream About You. Can you talk about that, your relationship with Dan and what that led to in your career?
Yeah, so, you know, like most kids when they grow up and they start an instrument, you do what you think is the best thing. So I got into bands and I was playing in garage bands and playing the occasional live gig. But at some point when I realized, well, I really want to do this for the rest of my life, so I need to become a songwriter and get serious about that because I really wanted to have this long-lasting career in the music business. So I got very serious about writing songs, and I think it was my brother who was booking the Average White Band, and he found Dan, and because he lived close to me, and he gave him my demo package, some demo songs, and Dan really saw something in these songs, and he kind of took me under his wing. Which is, it was probably like 1985 or 86, and I had no track record at that point. I was still trying to find my way through this music business, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he had the beck and call of every great studio musician out of New York, and for some reason he kind of used me on a whole bunch of records. So he put me on a Tina Turner song called Simply the Best, which was a big hit for her, and Nona Hendrix, Joe Cocker. And then I was sort of able to just kind of look over his shoulder as a producer and a songwriter. And he was working with Shaka Khan at that point, and James Brown, of course. So I didn't play on a James Brown record, but I was there as they were recording it. So it was very eye-opening. And he was an amazing talent. He's sorely missed.
You mentioned Average White Band, and you know we all know you're from the Hall & Oates band and your solo career, but you know Average White Band, I mean, iconic group. I mean, you kind of revived them. I mean, I think they were sort of not really doing much when you popped in, right?
Well, it happened the same way, actually. It was sort of the same kind of relationship with Dan. My brother was booking the Average White Band in the, let's see, the early 80s, just as they were sort of winding down before they kind of broke up. So he put me in touch with Alan Gorey, original bass player, and we hit it off, and we both had songwriting, we had publishing deals. So I got a publishing deal with Sony when I was, I don't know, 24, 25 years old, and that was sort of my first entry into a very professional sort of like, okay, you're writing songs for X amount of dollars for these people, and so he put Alan and I in touch, and we hit it off. We had great chemistry. We wrote songs for like probably about 3 years before they decided to put the band back together. And I never had a vision of becoming a band member in the Average White Band, but they decided to do a new record, and I had already written a bunch of songs with him for it, this like sort of comeback record. So we went out to Seattle to record this record, and before I knew it, we were doing gigs. So I was in the band. It was like, there was no audition or anything like that. I just found myself as a member of the Average White Band. And not only that, I was sort of asked to sing a lot of the lead songs in it, and I never really considered myself a real lead singer. I was always a singing musician, but I never considered myself a real lead singer. And that was a challenge, and it was a great time in my life, 13 years.
You know, I never did have the chance to ask you the story. I mean, there's some time between Average White Band and Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
So what was the decision-making process when you had to finally say, look, I mean, you were with a national act. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But you had to step away from that. What was that like, and what were the reasoning?
I did, it was simply that it had run its course. Creatively, you know, like I said, I never planned on being a member of a band like that. As great as it was, an incredible experience for any musician, traveling the world and playing some great songs. And, you know, we're opening for B.B. King and the Isley Brothers and James Brown. But at some point I said, well, wait a minute, this isn't exactly what I wanted to do. I really wanted to be a songwriter and sort of my own artist from day one. So I had to make that hard decision, like, okay, it was time to move on. And, you know, and prior, Daryl and John had seen me play and sort of put the feeler out, like, Daryl literally came up to me at a show, because he would sit in with the Average White Band when we would be touring over in London or something. And he came up to me and he said, I really want you in my band. And I thought, okay, well, let's, you know, I would love to entertain that, but I was still a member of the Average White Band at that point. So it ran its course, and then I got off the road and got back very focused on my own career, made a couple of CDs, and then got the offer from Daryl.
And the offer, I mean, I think you and I spoke about this before. Was there any hesitation because, you know, honestly, I wasn't even aware that you were as great a guitarist as you were until I saw you the first time live. When I think of you as a keyboardist, live from Daryl's house, you're the guy behind the keyboards, and Hall & Oates, you're the guy behind the keyboards, occasionally play some guitar.
Well, this is how it happened, I swear to God. It is strange because I feel like I have two sort of separate lives, and people sometimes come to see my solo shows, and they see me on Live from Daryl's house, or they know me from that, and they go, wait a minute, I thought you were the keyboard player. Really what happened was, I mean, I've been playing keys since the 80s, but it was only one piece of what I wanted to do, and it was really more, I taught myself keyboards in order to become a songwriter. So, but because I played a little bit of keys in the Average White Band, Daryl saw that and saw me playing bass, and so when he asked me to join the band, the position that was open was the keyboard position, and it just sort of stuck. I was like, okay, I'll take the position because I want to play with you guys, and it just sort of stuck. And they've always had, you know, T-Bone, of course, they've always had a guitar player in place. So there never really was an opportunity for me to transition over to the guitar spot in that band. But I love it. I love the variety. It's great. I can go play keys with them. I can do I have my own career as a guitar player. So it's all good.
I'll sneak in one more, and then we'll maybe see if you want to play a song real quick for us. And
Sure.
we'll pull some out of the question jar after that. You mentioned T-Bone Wolk, probably, you know, a gentleman that we lost. I don't know if anyone's familiar with. He was bass player for Hall Notes for a long time. He was, I believe, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, he was on Saturday Night Live.
Produced
for
a
years.
great album by Paul Carrick, who, you know, if you hadn't heard it before, but how shocking was that for the band? Because, I mean, that was pretty sudden when he passed away.
It was really shocking, and that would be an understatement. It was such a huge loss because he was such an incredible talent, and it really affected me because he was really the one who called me up actually on Daryl's behalf and said, "El," he said, "we're trying to think of somebody who can play bass and keys and guitar and sing and percussion." And we're like, "Oh, we got to call Eliot." So he reached out to me, and then he was the one who sort of orchestrated me coming into the band officially. And I said, "T-Bone, you know," I said, I can play keys, but I'm not at the level of the guys that preceded me." And he said, "El, you can do it. You're going to be amazing," you know. So he was really one of them who believed in me. So no, he's sorely missed.
Very much. You know, I'll throw out a request if you don't mind. You know, I'm a big Todd Rundgren fan. You and I talked a little bit about that, and you do the song better than Todd does now, because I don't think he likes it very much anymore. We'll see if they know this one.
Well, I'll play a Todd song, like Tom said. He doesn't play this much. He doesn't go back to his old catalog too much. He kind of moves forward, and I get that. He's a real innovator, but I grew up loving Todd Rundgren. His music was playing 24 hours a day in my home, and I didn't realize till much later on in my career as a songwriter how much of an influence he was on me. So he's one of the top songwriters. So. All right, I'll give you my little version of a Todd classic. There you go.
Hello, it's me. I've thought about us for a long, long time. Maybe I think too much, but something's wrong. There's something here that doesn't last too long. Maybe I shouldn't think of you as mine. Seeing you, or seeing anything as much as I do, I take for granted that you're always there. I take for granted that you just don't care. Sometimes I can't help seeing all the way through. You guys can help me on this, 'cause it's important to me that you know you are free. 'Cause I'm never gonna make you change for me. Think of me. You know that I'd be with you if I could. I come around to see you once in a while. Or if I ever need a reason to smile, yeah, spend the night if you think I should. Oh, come on, guys. 'Cause it's important to me that you know you are free. 'Cause I'm never gonna make you change for me. Yeah. Think of me. and a smile. I'll spend the night if you think I should. Oh, yeah. Well, you got to think of me all night. Think of me, but it's alright. Think of me now, baby. Think of me. Think of me. You got to think of me. You got to think of me. You got to think of me.
Thank you. Come on. That's a good song. And I swear to God, he told me literally that was the first song he ever wrote. And to me, that's like, okay, you're a genius.
All right. Well, you know, the first one I pulled out of here said, play either Freebird or Rush's 2112. So.
Not here, not tonight.
Nothing against either of those, though.
Well, this is a great question. So, of all the artists you've ever worked with, do you have a favorite, or can you choose one that you would say was the most down to earth?
Down to earth. Well, I would say maybe Joe Walsh. He certainly was down to earth in a sort of weird way. But I don't know. There's something about him that just there was a definitely sincere honesty when he came in and did the show live from Daryl's house, and you know, it's been mind blowing to have I don't know 80 or so different artists come through that door in that house. But he was one of the guys that I grew up listening to, so he had a big impact on me. So that was a really special one. You know, there's been a lot, but he seemed to be very, very down to earth and just really sincere and honest about what he does. When I swear to God, when he put on a guitar, he just looked like a 14-year-old over again. And to me, that means like, okay, he's doing it because he really loves to play.
Yeah, that was a great show. Let's see.
What do we got, Tom?
Oh, I'm only laughing because you and I have had this conversation. I'm not sure how much you're going to reveal. You don't have to name names, but was there ever a guest on Live at Daryl's house that you were surprised at how they were?
Surprised how they were?
Yeah.
In a good way or a bad way?
Just said surprised, you know.
There have been a few that, you know, how do I say this? When we're learning an artist's repertoire to do the show, sometimes we have preconceived notions that they're going to be either really, really good or they're maybe not going to be so good. But I don't know if I can name names, but there have definitely been some moments that we've been totally surprised in a pleasant way, like, wow, this artist really knows their stuff. They come in and they really almost sort of take control. Not that I was expecting any less of Billy Gibbons, for instance, from ZZ Top, but he came into the show, and he's another one of my guitar heroes, but he came into the show, and I thought I'd never met him before, but you sort of have a preconceived idea of what they're going to be like to work with, and he came in and totally took control of the whole scenario. He was like, all right, you're going to play this, and you're going to play this, and you're going to take the solo here, and it was like, wow, usually that stuff is mapped out for us by our musical director, but that was another one. It's, you know, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, sort of a follow-up question. You know, I never see any lyrics or anything. I mean, they must be kicking around somewhere because
Yeah, they are.
you don't have a lot of time.
They are, and sometimes now there is a teleprompter sort of hidden because there's a lot of music we try to do. You know, when we first started the show, it was almost 10 songs we were doing an episode. Then we started cutting it down to about 8 or now it's about 6 or 7 songs we do per show. So it's a lot of information to learn on both the parts, you know, the band and the artist that's coming in. So there's a teleprompter to help. Honestly, I try not to use a teleprompter because I don't want to be going, you know, okay, I'm reading, you know. Yeah. I want to kind of absorb the music and learn it and commit it to memory so I can kind of be in the moment a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely invisible, I have to say.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's weird too, is sometimes they give a teleprompter to the artist to read their own lyrics. And I think, don't do that. They know, you know, it's like if you're in a room and you put a TV on, everybody kind of looks at the TV. It's like, you know, so even though an artist knows their own lyrics, you know, if you put it in front of them, they're going to kind of look at it. So.
Well, this is an interesting question. I think we were actually going to tackle this. What year did you actually start your music career? What is the year that you kind of point to as?
Yeah, well, I started when I was 10 years old in 1982. Anybody believe that? No.
I was 6. So.
No, I started, you know, I had an epiphany or a light bulb moment when I was 10 and I discovered drums. But I mean, and honestly, from that moment on, I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. You know, I didn't know how it was going to happen. I had no concept about making money or what a career was, but I knew I wanted to be in music for the rest of my life. And then I think it was like, you know, mid-'80s that I got really serious about the business side of it in having this career as a songwriter.
All right, well, one last question from the question jar. What is your favorite Hall & Oates song? And then the follow-up is, what is your favorite song of all time?
Ooh, I would say my favorite Hall & Oates song, well, there's a few, but I would say She's Gone, just because it brings back, it's got so much history, and it's one of those, probably the first song I ever heard from them, and it brings back a bizarre memory for me because, you know, because I knew what I wanted to do early on in life. I sort of, I got out of school too early. I was guilty of that. I sort of had permission from my parents to do that. I would never do that as a parent, but so I started working at a really young age. So I was like working in a restaurant when I was 15. So that song, and I think Baby Come Back, were playing like literally, they were on the loop 24 hours a day. So that song has the longest history for me, and I always find that the song that you have throughout your life usually becomes the most important one. So I would say She's Gone, and maybe Hello, It's Me is one of my other favorite songs. I think it's one of the most finely written songs ever.
It's a great song. Well, you know what, I'm just going to let you play because nobody wants to hear me talk. But I will say again...
Any more questions?
Thank you so
much.
Come on.
How much time do you get to prepare for an artist on
Live from Daryl's?
Yeah.
It changes a little bit, but it's typically like, it's usually about a week. You know, we'll get the song list and they'll narrow it down, and sometimes it gets a little difficult because the artist is touring, and sometimes they have representatives, so it's a little tough to get right direct to the artist and go, okay, let's narrow down the song list, because everybody has to learn the stuff. But it's typically about a week, and we sort of learn the songs on our own at home. We each have our own home studios and stuff, and then what happens is that we learn the stuff on our own. We come together the day of the shoot, and we will run over the 6 or 7 songs we're doing like once or twice, and then the artist comes, and then we'll run through it once, and usually that's, unless somebody made a big mistake, that's usually the take. It happens pretty quick, and you know, I think it's only because we've been doing it for so long, you fall into a groove, and the band, I can't say enough great things about the band, you know, they're some of the best musicians, so.
As a music fan, there's some great music that has come off of that show. I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you. You know, I meet people every day, and that I realize the impact of this little show that started, you know, just as a little internet thing, just this idea that Daryl had. Let's get some people into my house and do this little casual thing, and then it caught on, and and then it went from just the internet to Palladia, and you know, we were touring over in Europe last year, and it's like people all over the world really know the show now. So it's unbelievable to think. And the coolest thing about it is that it turns people on all the time to new artists. So if they keep following the show, like the next episode will be somebody that they weren't familiar with, and now they're listening to. And it's very reciprocal. And I love that about it. We're discovering new music and new artists through it all the time too.
All right, great. Well, my personal favorite, "Wait for Me" with Pat Monahan.
Yeah, that was a killer version. That was definitely a goosebump moment because Pat is he just killed that song. I mean, he's a great singer, and I think they had a really good chemistry together.
All right, everyone ready for some music?
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Well done. All right, well, I'm going to run through a couple of things, well, a lot of things. Some of my own things that you probably have never heard. We're going to rock it out a little bit. And, but I'll do a couple of, a couple more highlights that I've gotten to do on Live from Daryl's house. So here's a brand new thing. This is going to end up on my new CD. Little thing about trying to have a plan in life. It's called Master Plan. song. Now, a couple of you guys got some CDs, the live CD. This is a song off that. It's a little thing about positive thinking. It's called Determination.
Celebration.